Hey everyone, Pastor Megan here. Glad to have you joining me again. Remember that no matter the church of your membership, the form of your baptism, wherever you are on the journey with God, you are welcome here. Because it's not my table, but it's God's table. So pull up a chair and come to the table. We're going to get started today like we have all the other times we've gathered with our breath prayer. I've heard from some of you, and I'm so glad that this is helping you breathe easier throughout the day. So let's get our feet flat on the floor, sitting up nice and tall, hands on our thighs, palms up or palms down, your choice. And then go ahead and soften your gaze or close your eyes. And take that first deep breath in, filling up your whole abdomen, feeling all four sides of your body expand. And then exhale. Keep going. Catch that wave. Let that exhale be longer than your inhale. Don't be afraid to be a little noisy. Do 2 more cycles on your own. And then let's sync up for this last one. Take a deep breath in and let it go. Slowly open your eyes, bring your gaze back to your computer screen or wherever you're looking. And we'll head to our Bible story today. This isn't so much a Bible story as a focus on a Bible character today. One of my favorites. I am wearing one of my new favorite t-shirts. I'll stand up so you can see it. This is Mary, the mother of Jesus. And I love this icon of her. I love that it's turned into a t-shirt with words from the Magnificat, the song that she sings after she agrees to this wild, weird plan to be the mother of Jesus. And so this is why I love her story, right? Like, she's a young woman, she's engaged to be married, and she is approached by an angel who says, "You've been chosen. You have been chosen to bear God's son." And it's just such an interesting story of what do we do when God comes to us and asks us to do these incredible, weird, and wild things, right? And so you can find Mary's story in the Gospel of Luke. We're going to move out of John for today. Chapter 1. And it's a really big, full story in this chapter. And her song, and when the angel comes to visit her, that's in verses 26 through 45. So if you want to look that up, Luke chapter 1, verses 26 through 45. And here's the thing about Mary. Ooh, sorry, wobbly table. We think of her at Christmas time. We think of her beautifully pregnant. We think about her delivering baby Jesus, right? But I think her story is more than that. I think it's really empowering, whether you've had children or whether you've not had children. I don't think it matters. What matters, I think, is her courage and the way that she says yes to God and the way that she is a strong and incredible woman of faith. So before Mary is the mother of Jesus, before Mary has that little baby in her arms on Christmas Eve, she is a prophet. So the angel comes to her, and ultimately, after the angel makes this offer, she says, "Here I am, the servant of the Lord. Let it be with me according to your word." But there's a back and forth before this answer that is the same back and forth that is used when God calls the prophets in the Hebrew Bible. And I love it. I think it's so cool. Okay, so the angel shows up and says, "You are favored by God." And says, "This is your task. You are going to conceive and bear a child, the Son of God." But Mary doesn't say yes right away. She ponders this greeting and the questions, and maybe even objects a little bit at first. She says, "How can this be, since I'm a virgin?" And the angel continues to explain how this plan is going to unfold. And Mary's question and initial objection, they don't bother the angel. He doesn't say, "Okay, fine then, see you later." The angel continues the conversation. And then, through the angel, God reassures Mary, just as God reassures the prophets in the Hebrew Bible, that the divine presence will abide with them, live with them, dwell with them as they carry out their call. And so, again, Mary hears, "Do not be afraid. The Lord is with you. Nothing will be impossible with God." It's a pretty strong promise. And this is where Mary says yes to her role as a prophet and the literal bearer of Christ in the world. God's word made flesh. So this is where I think we get mixed up about Mary, right? So we have the angel, and then we have all these Christmas songs about how lovely and sweet and beautiful it all is, which is true. I'm not trying to say that Jesus and Mary are not a beautiful picture of a mother and child. They are, but they're more than that, way more than that. Mary is willing to risk a respectable marriage, right? There's lots of consequences that could come from breaking off her engagement with Joseph, or just from being pregnant before they're married, right? That's a whole other video. She's willing to risk her social standing. During this time, individuals brought honor or shame to their families, and there was only so much to go around. And so if you brought shame to your family, you were in trouble. So, right? This is pretty big. And lastly, she's willing to be responsible for mothering the Messiah. Now, if you do have children, you know what a big responsibility it is just to raise your own children. Imagine raising the Messiah, God's son. No problem, right? It's wild. It's just wild. Okay, and so there's this question, right? It's a popular song. Mary, did you know? I hate it. Again, that's another video. I think Mary did know. She knew what this meant. She sang her own song about it, about casting down the mighty, like my shirt says, right? She's willing to have her whole life turned upside down. She knew just enough to get started on this work that God called her. She then takes a journey, which is another characteristic of a prophet. She travels alone to her cousin Elizabeth's house and she sings this amazing song. She has a bold agenda to bring the mighty down from their thrones, to scatter the proud in the imagination of their hearts, to fill the hungry with good things, and to send the rich away empty. These are Mary's words about what it means to bear the Son of God. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she said yes. Then she takes a back seat after we're introduced to Jesus. We don't hear about her much in the Gospels. There's a few stories here and there, but she kind of fades into the background. But I think she shows up in the character of Jesus. I mean, really, how could she not? This is my favorite thing about Mary. I stole this from somebody on the internet. I can't remember who. Someone amazing like L. Dowd or something like that. But Jesus is a product of the people who raised him, just like we all are the products of the people who raised us. And so think about this. God is Jesus' Father, and so Jesus shows us what God looks like in the world and in the flesh, but Mary is Jesus' mother. And she raises him the best she knows how, with this incredible love and compassion for God and God's people and God's kingdom, right? She's the one that's going to raise him to hope for the kingdom of God. She's the one that will teach him right and wrong. She's the one who's going to give him the language to speak truth to power. Every time that in the Gospels we see Jesus standing up for the marginalized and the outcast, we hear the echoes of Mary's song. Every time Jesus gives himself willingly to God's will, we see the reflection of his mother, the one who first gave herself for God's will. She's amazing. She's incredible. I love Mary. She's just my most favorite Bible character because of her tenacity and her strength and her courage and her faith. Gosh, what an example of faith. To be the one to not only bear God's Son into the world, but then to raise him into the man of compassion and courage that we see. It's amazing. It's so cool. But this story isn't just about Mary. I don't lift her up to be like, wow, she's super cool. I mean, I do, but that's not where it ends. Because we are called too. As followers of Jesus, we are called to live in that same way, to speak truth to power, to cast the mighty down from their thrones, to send the rich away hungry and fill the hungry with good things, right? We are chosen daily for God's work. God's favor is proclaimed over us. We are loved and known, and God has work for us to do together. There are new things that will come from us, from every single one of us in our lives of faith. And that's what God is asking from us today. So I don't know how long it will take you to ponder and say yes. I don't know what questions you'll have for God first or the messenger first, but I hope that you will hold on to Mary and her example as we move through this new and difficult time together. I think we can take courage with who Mary was and what she did in her own difficult time. Okay, I know this is long, but Mary's story, it's just my favorite. Okay, so our spiritual practice, is I want you to practice some gratitude And not the gratitude for what you have, like making that list of like 10 things, like my house, my bed, my full refrigerator, all good things. But sometimes those make us start comparing, like, well, gosh, I've got a house, but what about the people that don't? Or I've got a full refrigerator, and what about the people that don't? Great things to think about, right? But they can send us into a spiral about, like, why do I have all this stuff? Or they can make us think, I'm more blessed than that person. What did I do for God to favor me more than that person? And that's not really what we're going for. That's not what blessing is. That's not what God's favor looks like. Maybe that'll be another video. We are going to practice gratitude for who we have. So I'd like you to write a note of gratitude to your spiritual mother, a woman that you are related to or not, who nurtured your faith, who showed bold faith, who showed gritty faith, who showed just an extraordinary way of following Christ and following God. I'd like you to write them a note. You can mail it if you're healthy. You can email it. You can text it. You can Facebook message it. You could even write it down and then call them and read it over the phone. That'll up the gratitude factor by about 1 million. But take a few minutes and write a note of gratitude to a spiritual mother, someone who has inspired you in faith. Because this is how we grow, not only in faith, but in courage and strength, is by practicing gratitude for who you have and for how things happen. Okay, so our blessing for today is again from Jan Richardson, one of my favorite blessing writers. Here we go. This blessing is for the moment after clarity has come, after inspiration, after you have agreed to what seemed impossible. This blessing is what follows after illumination departs and you realize there is no path, there is no map for the path you have chosen, no one to serve as your guide, nothing to do but gather your gumption and set out. This blessing will go with you. It carries no answers, no charts, no plans. It carries no source of light within itself. But in its pocket is tucked a mirror that from time to time it will hold up to you to remind you of the radiance that came when you gave your awful and wondrous yes. I'm thankful for you, and I'm thankful that you joined me again today, and I will see you again next week.